Guys, if you're anything like me, looking at maps has always been a huge part of my preparation and execution for my outdoor adventures. I have been using GoHunt digital maps on desktop and mobile for quite some time now. I have used these maps for years for my in-depth e-scouting tactics and my methods of using offline maps during the hunt. Well, now I'm happy to report GoHunt Maps now covers all 50 states. There's two ways to get the GoHunt map. You can sign up for a GoHunt Insider membership and get the benefits of all the draw odds, harvest statistics, unit breakdowns, strategy articles, as well as access to the 50 state maps, plus savings on gear for being an Insider member. Like right now, they're doing double points. For an Insider membership, sign up now at GoHunt.com, use the JScott promo code, and get a $50 GoHunt Gear Shop gift card just for signing up. You can also just sign up for a GoHunt Explorer membership, and that gives you access to 50 states for $50. Use the JScott promo code. Guys, also don't forget to get a 10% discount on gear at the GoHunt Gear Shop by using the JScott promo code. You can also reach out to my friend Cody Nelson of 20 plus years, either by phone or by text. 602-399-3699. Make sure you tell him I sent you. I want to thank GoHunt.com for their loyal sponsorship of my podcast. We're over 815 episodes in, and they've been with me since the beginning. I also want to thank Kuyu Ultralight Hunting for their sponsorship of this podcast. They provide the gear that I use on all of my hunting adventures. You can go to the Kuyu website directly, kuiu.com, order directly. They're a direct-to-consumer company. They make the best gear in the hunting industry, and I've been a loyal supporter of theirs for years. Also, phonescope.com. Go to phonescope.com, use the JScott or JScott22 promo code, and you're going to get a 10% discount at Phonescope. Guys, thanks for listening to the podcast. Thanks for supporting me. If you have any questions or you'd like to send me a comment, the best way to do that is on my Instagram account at JScottOutdoors. Again, let's get right to this episode, and thanks for your support. Guys, welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. I've got my brother from another mother, Daniel Franco of Burnt Timber Outfitters on the line. Daniel, how you doing?
Good, man. How you doing?
I always like to catch you a little bit off guard.
Well, if we're brothers, I'm pretty sure I got the looks because you got everything else.
Oh man, it's been a while since I've talked to you. Here we are. We're sitting mid August. We've got archery deer hunts kicking off. We've got antelope hunts. We've got the elk season about a month away. Wanted to get you on here and just get a kind of how things are looking, how monsoons, how the grass is looking, what's going on up there in the 3C, 4B, 4A, all the Unit 1, all that stuff that you're born and raised there in Heber, Arizona.
Well, I guess starting out, to kind of preface it a little bit, last year, kind of the end of summer, early fall, as you know, we got quite a bit of rain. I don't know exact numbers, but it was pretty substantial. We got a bunch of rain. It did grow a little bit of kind of late summer, early fall feed, which was pretty good for elk and deer and everything. So going into this winter, we had a surplus of feed. We did have a pretty mild winter, which helps, especially on their overall health and stuff. So going into this year, we were pretty optimistic, just based on kind of that late summer, early fall moisture that we got last year. We didn't get as much moisture as I would have liked this winter, which was kind of a little bit of a downer. The spring, we got a couple of kind of timely storms. They just happened to fall right into place and right when we needed it the most, and kind of green stuff up a little bit. And then, of course, going into May and June, we got pretty dry. So, I mean, we were kind of up in the air as far as kind of how this year was going to look and what our outcome was going to be for antler growth this year. With that said, we've basically spent about the last 3 weeks in mostly kind of the lower country, most of 3A and 4B north of the forest boundary. There's been some limited opportunity elk hunts out there that my daughter was fortunate enough to draw one of the tags, and we had a client in one of the others. So we've been spending quite a bit of time out there, and starting about the second week of June, we started getting some rain. Greened it up a little bit, but not a lot. But since then, we've had, and I don't know exact numbers, but I know it's over 10 inches. I've got a friend with a rain gauge. He's been checking it regularly and kind of texting me what we've been getting. And since the middle of June to now, so in the last 2 months, we have had over 10 inches of rain right here in Heber. I know up towards, kind of the higher elevations of 3C, 23 North, Unit 1, it's probably even more than that. But it is, it's as green as I've seen it since I was a kid, since growing up in the, kind of the late 80s, early 90s. I can remember when we would start school, it was just as green as could be, and that's what it looks like now. It's tons of water, tons of tanks. We've had multiple occasions where water has been running across the highways, different highways, even as far north as halfway to Holbrook. So definitely have had a ton of rain. It's been awesome. It's been wonderful. And surprisingly enough, the elk that we've seen in that kind of more northern arid country of 4B and 3A, they look great. We have yet to see a bull that has any sort of drought effects to them. Everything looks good. Everything's grown out well. They're just starting to rub velvet. So it's looking like it's going to be a really good year. Cows are fat and healthy, and the deer are looking great as well. So everything's pointing towards a very positive year this year for antler growth and for healthy animals.
With that being said, how much of that do you think the early green up, or the say June 15th rain, the 10 inches to now, how much of that accounts for everything looking positive, or is that late fall moisture that came, or excuse me, late summer, early fall moisture that you did talk about? How much of that do you think plays into what you're seeing?
I think last year's rain was the kind of what tipped the scale for their antler growth this year. I think by the middle to end of June, I think that's a little late for the elk. I think it helps a little bit on just kind of finishing out. But I think the positive antler growth that we're seeing right now, I think a lot of that attributes to that late summer, early fall moisture from last season.
And as far as size, you've kind of seen 3C growing up, born and raised there and growing up and then having the fire and seeing, the tags go up, the tags go down, the bulls go up, the, quality of antlers, age class, and then go up and down. Where do you think, say, 3C is right now in that spectrum? Do you think it's trending on an upward trend? Do you think it's holding its own, or do you think it's going down?
Well, I think it's trending up, and just kind of based on what we've seen the last couple of years, we had a year or two that was a little bit dry, where we didn't quite see the full potential of the antler growth. Last year was kind of a little drier than we would like to see, and still saw and it produced some really good bulls. And I think this year, I think it's trending up. And I guess, one way to kind of put your money where your mouth is on that is I went into the draw with a lot of points, and basing kind of my decision off of last year's moisture and the mild winter and kind of some of those timely storms when we needed them and starting to help green up, I went ahead and applied. And so I may or may not have a 3C archery bull tag in my pocket. So
dirty little dog. Boy,
So
don't secrets just come out?
they
Just it's
sometimes they,
amazing how all you have to do is press play on the podcast and you find out all sorts
and
of things about your
here they
buddy.
come.
Gee, so you may or may not have an archery
So
bull
I
tag in
may or
your
may
pocket.
not have an archery bull tag in my pocket. And I'll be honest, I applied this year just kind of saying, okay, let's see what this kind of last season moisture brings, the mild winter. Let's kind
Obviously,
of see what
leaning
it
on your
does.
point guard, knowing that if it didn't go well,
Absolutely,
you could. But from the
absolutely.
sounds of it,
And I
you're intending to hunt fully. Because
I'll tell you right now, based on what we've seen the last 3 weeks with the bulls that we've seen in that lower country, where it's typically drier, and that's typically where we see the first signs of drought. Based on what we're seeing there, I have full intentions of hunting this year. So, but come September, I guess September 7th, if 6th, if I'm not seeing kind of what I want to see, then I do have my point guard and I can exercise that and wait for a different year. But it looks pretty good. It looks really good, actually. So,
how do you think the full moon being full on the 10th, and I'm sure you thought about that when you applied,
I have.
how do you think that's going to play into, say, not only your region, but just, across the West, for those hunts that are starting kind of that same time period? What are your thoughts?
So with Arizona starting on the 9th and the full moon, I think is the 11th, if I remember correctly, just from what I
10th or
remember
11th?
looking
I
at
think it's
10th or
the,
11th.
yeah.
So yeah, it is going to start out on the full moon. But and that did play a big part in, whether I should apply, whether I shouldn't apply. Um, but with it starting on the 9th, I think they're just going to be getting going. They're just going to be rolling in. I mean, you know how it is in a lot of units, 3C and 23 and 1 and 9 and 10. I mean, sometimes you don't even see your biggest bulls until the 15th, 16th, 18th, 20th, when it's finally actual go time, then the big boys kind of show up. So with that full moon being at the beginning of the season and it being an early start on the 9th, I think it'll just be a little bit of a slow start.
Right.
But I still think you're going to have big bulls, on their feet. They're going to be traveling. They're going to be checking areas. Where's the cows? Where's who's where? And I think, to be honest with you, I think during those first couple of days, if you've got a big bull pinpointed and he's not making a ton of noise, he's not in there raising havoc and chasing cows. I mean, that's going to be the best time to kill him, anyways.
Awesome.
So I think it will affect it, but because of the early start dates, I don't think it'll be that bad.
And it's one of those things that every day that goes by, the moon will be
It's
getting
getting darker.
smaller, and so it
Yep,
should just be
exactly.
by the end of the archery hunt and the beginning of, I'm not sure if
The
3C
early
is a
rifle.
early rifle and
Yep.
muzzleloader, but they
Yeah,
should be
it's an
just
early rifle this year.
they should be just full tilt by then,
Yeah.
just going
I
ham.
think that last week of the archery season is going to be off the charts.
How does with 3C kind of being the crown jewel there, Unit 1 being good, you've got
Mm-hmm.
your 4B. How does
3B.
4B look?
4B right now looks phenomenal. I've been shocked at how even the rains have been over the unit. There were a couple of little spots there, kind of in the middle of July, where it was green all the way around, and there were just little pockets that it was kind of missing. But since then, I mean, it's pretty much, I mean, all the way from Heber to Joe City. I'm amazed at how green it is and how evenly it's covered the unit. And we've seen the same in 3A. We've seen, the same even up going into 3B and up into Unit 1. It's been just dispersed pretty evenly over the unit. So it's not like it's just real pockety green where the elk are going to have to concentrate because that's where the feed is. It's pretty much unit wide.
Okay, so let's talk about that real fast. With it being green all over, that spreads them out. How does that play
Mm-hmm.
in? Anybody out there with a tag, what advice would you give them, or what would you tell them about if it is got them spread out? What kind of strategy? What should they be thinking about?
Well, I mean, the definite benefit to having them spread out is a lot of times you can find a little group of elk that's, got the right bull with them that you can have to yourself. You're not, it's not like they're all congregated, so all the hunters are going to be congregated. By spreading them out across the unit evenly. It definitely cuts down on that competition and having other hunters in there chasing, your bull and all of that. On the flip side, it does make it a little harder to sometimes find that bull, and that's where a lot of scouting and, even running around in the evenings and listening for bugles and seeing, where elk are and where they're not, and getting them located and going from there. But I personally, I prefer it when it's like that, when they are spread out. You don't have 150 head elk in this drainage, and then you don't have anything for 3 or 4 miles before you get to the next pocket of elk. I'd rather have them just kind of more evenly spread out.
Spreads the hunters out too.
Spreads the hunters out. Yeah, exactly. So
okay. I'm going to put you on the spot here with what you're forecasting. What kind of bull, if you just had to guess on in 3C on the archery, let's put all the hunts together. What do you think the biggest bull? What do you think the biggest bull in 3C will be this year?
Oh, you are going to put me on the spot. Based on what I've seen so far, this year, it would not surprise me one bit to see a couple of bulls pushing that 4 killed out of 3C this year.
Okay. What about 4B?
It wouldn't surprise me for a couple of 380s to come out of 4B this year.
No kidding.
No kidding.
What about 3B?
3B, that one's 3B is a little bit different. It's pretty similar to 3C in the fact that a lot of the elk come off of the reservation. But for some reason in 3B, it kind of, some years they come off and there's a lot of elk in 3B, and some years they don't. So 3B is kind of one of those units that you just never know what you're going to get. Barring the elk do come off and they kind of flood into 3B like they have on other years, same thing. It wouldn't surprise me to see a 380 bull come out of there.
What about 1?
1 is one's been improving. It kind of took that big hit when they raised the amount of late tags and it opened up with the burn and people and long range rifles. They really put a hurting on them on the late hunts, but it's coming back, and I would say the same. I think it could produce a 380 bull this year.
Wow, that's fantastic to hear.
Yeah.
What about 23?
23 is one of those kind of similar. You get a lot of those bulls coming off the res. Do they stay in the unit? Do they cross back onto the res? I would put it right there with 3C. It wouldn't surprise me to see a bull touching the 400-inch mark to come off of there.
Okay. Let's shift gears real fast, and let's talk about the mule deer buck, specifically in 3C. How is it looking?
Phenomenal. So I know I've talked about this in the past, but our deer right here along the Mogollon Rim and even running over into 1 and 27, they are on a later cycle than your strip bucks, than your Utah bucks, Colorado bucks. So their growing cycle runs later than kind of typical across the West. And because of that, and because of the timing of the rain, man, I see nothing but positives for the mule deer this year in 3C. Just because it wasn't a hard winter. It was a very mild winter. There were quite a few good carryover bucks that made it through. And then with the moisture hitting in June, we're already starting to see acorns, so we're going to have an acorn crop, which helps the deer. They're not going to rub until end of September, 1st of October. So, their whole growing antler cycle is going to be right during all this prime moisture and vegetation and feed. And there's absolutely no reason that they should be even think drought,
Okay.
let alone see it in their horns.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but last year didn't 3C have a December hunt?
It did.
Did it did it pan out to be the hunt that everyone thought that it would be, or did it not really pan out?
I don't think it did. I may be
And is that
called
hunt
an idiot
again
and a
this year, or
fool.
did it
It
rotate?
is. Yep,
Okay,
yep.
okay.
There's 10 tags. So we ended up hunting it last year with a client from Colorado, and we spent a total of 11 days hunting, and we had, I'm going to say, probably 9 or 10 other days of scouting during the hunt while he had gone back home to take care of some work, and of course Christmas is in there and everything else. But we hit it pretty hard. We had multiple guys out in the field looking. I mean, I don't think there was a day that we had less than 3 guys spread out looking around. And I was kind of curious how this hunt was going to go. It was the first time they'd done it, and I'll be honest, I was disappointed. Um, we had found and killed better bucks during the October hunt than what we saw in December. I think the biggest thing that a lot of people don't realize is once we start to get snow, um, pretty much everything north of the 300 road that runs all along the reservation fence, as soon as that gets snow, it's all north facing. So it's not like it snows and 2 days later it melts off and the deer are just in there thick. It snows and it stays there, and it's cold on that north face. And so a lot of those deer that kind of hover along the 300 road, within a mile or two, we lost a lot of those deer to the reservation. They crossed over. We drove through there 2 days after one of the snowstorms, and I think we cut 2 deer tracks, and both of them were heading south for the Fort Apache. So we lost quite a few of the deer that we normally have that crossed over, and then some of the other deer did kind of push to the north down into that lower elevation stuff, and that's where most of the deer were. But it was, to me, it was a little bit of a bust. We ended up seeing pictures of all of the bucks that were killed, and yeah, to be blunt and to be honest, it was a disappointment for us.
Do you think on the right year, if you didn't get snow and it kind of was dry, that they would actually stay up and it might be pretty good?
I think the snow, it kind of helps you, kind of hurts you type of deal. It does make them easier to see, and kind of gets them on their feet a little more. But yeah, once that higher elevation gets snow, we lost those deer. And I think we ended up getting 2 pretty decent snowstorms. I think the one was probably 3 to 4 inches. The other one was probably 5 to 6. So, but just enough to, that it was cold and they don't like it, and crossed over the top and went for sunnier southern slopes. So,
Well, let me ask you, as optimistic as you are about the deer, would it surprise you if there's a deer over 200 killed in 3C this year?
no.
Would it surprise you if there were 3 or 4 deer over 200 killed?
Yeah,
So
I could
it's
see
a
I
one
could
or
see
two
a
maybe.
I could see a couple, maybe 3. I don't see much more than that, but I mean, I don't know. Time will tell.
Okay. I know you've been spending some time in the low country. Let's talk about antelope a little bit. What are you seeing
Mm-hmm.
out there? How's it looking?
Antelope numbers. So the game and fish over the last couple of years in 4A, 4B, 3A, a little bit of 3C. They've kind of decreased tags here just in the last year or two, and we're starting to see a little bit of a rebound there because of that. I'll be honest, we spent quite a bit of time in 4B last year on the antelope hunt, and kind of thought we had most of the bucks figured out. And this year we've actually found a couple of bucks that we don't recognize from last year, unless they had a really big growth spurt and blew up last year. That, I mean, there's some pretty good bucks out there. So yeah, it was encouraging to go out and see some good solid bucks, considering the hunting pressure and the amount of tags and stuff that we've had the last few years. So
Nice. Well, that's always good to hear.
yeah,
Um, okay, so in recap, you're just pretty optimistic. You haven't been this optimistic in the last couple of years.
no,
So you're licking your chops, especially with the tag in your pocket.
yeah, yeah, we're ready to get going. So
Awesome. Awesome. Well, it's always great having you on the podcast and getting your take on things. I want to give you a chance to let the listeners know how to reach out to you guys, Burnt Timber Outfitters, and find out more information. And I'll let you do that now.
mainly just, I mean, if you want to follow us kind of more closely, Instagram at Burnt Timber Outfitters. And we also have a website, burntimberoutfitters.com. Those are probably two of the best ways. We've got our emails, phone numbers on there. We're pretty much fielding emails and calls on a daily basis with people with points. What should I do here? What do you think here? But yeah, those are probably some of the best ways to kind of follow us, see our successes, and kind of what's going on, and get a hold of us.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast,
You
sharing
bet.
with us. I'm pumped about your tag. It doesn't surprise me because it always seems that you have a tag of some sort in your pocket from some state right up your sleeve,
Oh, come on now.
and
Come on,
and
Jay.
and it's just amazing how giant animals fall when you have tags, whether it be
Uh,
Mexico or wherever you're at. Something big is going to hit the ground.
yeah,
Um,
we'll see.
so, but it's going to be hard to beat the last bull. I think. What was that? Oh, when you had the tag
Uh,
and shot the three, what was it 385 or 390, something like that?
393 was in
I
07.
was gonna say oh 08. So yeah, oh 07. So it's
Oh 07.
shoot, you're a little longer in the tooth since the last tag.
Yeah, but let me tell you what that does too. When you get out there and you see, I mean, let's be honest. Anybody that walks away from a 370 bull is an idiot. So I don't want to be an idiot. There's just something to say about a big, clean, and I'm a typical kind of guy, but a big, clean, typical 6 point or inline seven that's 370. I mean, you just don't let those bulls walk.
Yeah. Well,
So I'm not dumb.
I'm if I
Contrary to your belief.
I was gonna say if I had a podcast with your wife, I'm sure I could get a different story out
Oh
of
yeah,
her.
let's not bring her on.
um, are you a grandpa yet?
I am.
Oh my
I'm
gosh,
I'm
you
a grandpa of 6 months.
you and Mikey both. Mike, he'll be a great grandpa, but before long.
He's getting closer than I am. That's for dang sure.
Well,
Hey,
congratulations.
thank you. I noticed you didn't ask me about the turkeys up here.
I'm smarter than that.
Okay,
Okay,
just
let's
checking.
let's ask. Have you seen a turkey in the last 12 months in 3C?
Yes,
Can you count them on one hand?
yes. I saw four gobblers back in October on the 3C deer hunt. Those were the last turkeys I've seen.
And people are listening that probably haven't listened to us long enough or know us. And I mean, when was this? Probably.
Oh 06, 07, 08.
So we would run around in 3C, me, Daniel, Mikey, the whole crew, and we'd go out in the morning, and I'd go one way, they'd go another, and we'd come back and we'd eat breakfast, and we'd say, "How many did you hear?" And it was
Yep.
not uncommon, not uncommon. Between driving in the dark, listening on the roost, to come back and say, "I heard 18, I
Oh
heard
yeah.
14, I heard
22.
27, I heard
Yep.
20."
Yep.
And that's everybody going in different directions. To see where the turkeys were and where they are now is so sad.
Disgusting.
I mean,
Yeah.
so sad. It used to
Yeah.
be
It's
phenomenal.
bad. It's bad. So, in fact, it's gotten to the point where
You don't even put in for it, do you?
no, heavens no, I'm smarter than that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, even the youth tags, they get first crack at them, and
We
they're
used to have
for
a ball on those youth tags. I mean,
oh,
we were
I know,
trying to find any kids we could find just because it was so
just to take
awesome.
them. I
Yeah.
know. I can remember taking
Jay and Will.
Little Jay and Will, and they were little tykes, and I think they both shot 4 or 5 times in 2 days.
Yeah, I mean
at turkeys, and it was like, oh, no big deal.
We
Let's
had to
walk
go
over
to
this
Phoenix
Richards.
to buy more shotgun shells.
Oh,
ridiculous.
Jay's gonna be mad at us.
You'd call in birds and shoot and miss. It's okay. We'll just go over the next ridge,
Let's
call
go
in a
over the
couple
next
more.
ridge and-
Up, shoot
yeah.
again. Okay, let's go.
Yep.
It was ridiculous.
It was. But yeah, it's sad. It is sad to know what it used to be like and see what it is today.
Yeah.
So it's disappointing.
Well, let's hope for better times. Daniel, it's always great having you on the podcast. I want to thank you for coming on. Okay, buddy.
You bet.
Good
Thank
luck
you,
with
Jay.
that elk tag. God bless. Okay.
You bet. Thanks, man.
Bye.
Bye.